Hey guys, welcome to our daily encounter. In Romans chapter 1, the Apostle Paul describes the moral decline of the human race, probably more specifically the Gentile nations. But he describes how they had gone down this downward spiral, morally speaking, and he kind of traces how this all happened. And he talks about how they became futile in their minds and their thoughts. Their foolish heart was darkened, and then they become fools and began to worship idols. They exchanged the creator for the creature, basically, and this all led to sexual immorality. And then just the bottom falls out morally for these people being described. He says, starting in verse 29, having been filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, violent, arrogant, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, without understanding, untrustworthy, unloving, unmerciful. And although they knew the righteous requirements of God, or know the righteous requirements of God, that those who practice such things are worthy of death, they not only do the same, but also give hearty approval to those who practice them. And so you can just tell how basically the rug of morality had been pulled out from underneath these nations. And this really is a good description. If you go back and look at all the books of the prophets that we have read earlier this year, you find this to be the case. All the nations had become corrupted. They all followed after these idols, and and the situation of their society had just become horrible. But what's interesting about this whole description is where it all began. It's interesting where it all began. It says in verse 21, for even though they knew God, they did not glorify him as God or give thanks. That's very interesting. This horrible situation in which society had just completely gone blank, morally speaking, it can all be traced back to not glorifying God and giving him thanks. I think this is something good for us to reflect on as we are getting further into Thanksgiving week. This week we're going to celebrate the holiday of Thanksgiving, which is really all about giving thanks for the things that God has done for us. And hopefully this text will show us just how important that is. Because even though it might be a small step in the wrong direction, it's still a step in the wrong direction when we just stop giving God thanks. When we no longer have a grateful heart for the Lord. And don't take the time to pause and thank him for the wonderful blessings that we have. Because this could be an indicator of several things. One, it could just be that we're not thinking about God and we're just taking the things that he's given us for granted. And we're just going through life with God not only in the back of our minds, but not even in our minds. And we're just going through life and doing these certain things, being so blessed by him, but not really even connecting these things to him. And it could be just from neglect, from just not thinking about it. It could also be because of maybe we're trusting in ourselves too much. Trusting in ourselves that we are the ones that acquired all these things. We are the ones that have established our lives. Everything that we have is because we pulled ourselves up by the bootstraps, because we went out and we made it happen. That could be part of having a heart that's not full of gratitude towards God. Or we might place the credit to other things or other people to say, well, it's because of this individual or because of this particular education that I had or this university that I attended. And we begin to give credit to other places, not just to ourselves, but to other places, and forget that ultimately the Father of lights is the one through whom every good and perfect gift comes. And we forget that it's him that ultimately gives us what we have. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't even exist or have our very being, as the Apostle Paul would say in Acts chapter 17. It's through him we have these things. And whenever we cease to be thankful, and maybe it will just start out with us just not thinking about it, which might lead to being dependent on ourselves, which which may also develop into depending on other things or vice versa. But either way, that's a step in the wrong direction. It might even be several steps in the wrong direction, to where we're distancing ourselves more and more from God and focusing more on ourselves and on the world. And so we have to be very, very careful. We might think that giving thanks is just a small matter. It's just something that we do. Maybe we pray real quick before we eat. And maybe just once a year during Thanksgiving, we might say a little bit longer prayer and give thanks, or whatever the case may be. And we might think that it's a small matter, but I think Romans chapter 1 would tell us what a big deal it is to give thanks to God. It keeps us in our proper place. It helps us to understand that God is the one who blesses us, and it helps us to depend on Him and trust in Him and not on ourselves or on other people. So hopefully our text today will help us do that today. And with that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.